In this video, we discuss a dozen factors that are proven to improve your happiness in retirement. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
Harvard Medical School conducted a study in 1938. Now, that's not unusual. Harvard Medical School conducts a lot of studies, but this particular study is an ongoing study. And the primary question, or the primary focus of the study, was the question of happiness. The study followed 724 participants, and as of the writing of the article that we used for some of this data, anyway, 60 were still alive, making it really relevant for the group that watches this video. The study followed the lives of people from different economic classes, from Boston's most poor neighborhoods to Harvard undergrad students. As an FYI, President John F. Kennedy was part of the original study, but I digress. That information, combined with research from AARP and also a lot of data from this channel, is what comprises this list that you're about to see right now. Importantly, and I'll just jump to the chase, there are a lot of really happy retirees with limited funds in retirement because they know what to focus on and what actions to take. And that's what we're going to be discussing next. All right, let's get into it. Point number one is setting new goals. Up until retirement, you had a very standard set of goals, at least most people do. All of those goals were great for the time, but now you're in a different stage of your life. So job number one is to find out what you want out of retirement. What are your main goals? Once you have those goals set, then you can proceed forward to try to accomplish those goals. But I can tell you those goals will be vastly different than those that you had during your working years. Point number two is that retirees have great time management skills. The most important of those skills is having a daily routine. Now, many of you will be saying, but Jeff, I had a daily routine my entire adult life. I got up at 6 a.m. I took the kids to school at 7 o'clock. I was at the office by 8:30. I worked until 5:30. I came home. I had dinner. I did more work. I went to bed. Why would I want to have a daily routine now? Well, if you think it through, in retirement, you could theoretically sleep until noon, hop in your car, drive to the pharmacy, spend an hour there, come back, read the newspaper, watch television for the rest of the evening, go to bed and do it all again. For most people, in fact, I'd say for just about everyone, this gets really old really quickly. And two things happen. You become mentally and physically soft when you are just doing nothing all day, every day. The routine doesn't have to be rigorous, but you should wake up knowing what you're going to do that day. That will lead to a much happier day and frankly a much happier life if you have processes put in place to take you where you want to go. Point number three is take care of your health. Of course, this is an obvious one. Everybody says it, but this is something that retirees rarely do. If you think about the key drivers that are important for health and retirement, health at any time, but certainly health and retirement, the drivers are seeing your doctor, taking the right medicine at the right time, of course, having the physical activity necessary to maintain your energy level, health, and vibrancy, and eating the right foods to do the same. If you were to ask 10 retirees if they attend to all of these religiously, the answer would probably be 2 out of 10, maybe 3 out of 10, depending on who you're talking to and the group that you hang around with. But certainly, you're not going to have the majority of retirees focusing in on the key drivers of health. Unfortunately, the key drivers of health are also what take you into old age, longevity, frankly, and keep your energy level up. So this is job number one. Number three is mastering technology. Mastering tech is important, if for no other reason, that we as a society communicate with each other on 5 different levels: email, text, video, telephone, and by writing each other, old school, by sending a letter in the mail to one another. If you're not actually mastering the technology that's in front of you, you're limited to 2 of the 5, your telephone and a letter. The good news is that it's easy to master technology. You can certainly have your grandson or granddaughter show you how to use all of the apps that are necessary to stay connected. More easily though, you could simply buy a book or go to the Apple store if you have an Apple iPhone. They have classes on how to use everything. Number 5 is to pay others to do the things you just don't want to do. For those of you that know me personally, one of the things you'd notice about me is that I'm relatively generous when it comes to things like charities, helping others, helping my family, of course. I'm also quite frugal, maybe even cheap when it comes to something that I consider to be frivolous. One thing you could absolutely say about me is that I'm willing to pay for people to do the things that I just don't want to do. Many of them I could figure out how to do fixing an air conditioner or a heating system, for example, or spending time dealing with things like mowing the lawn. But the fact is, I would rather pay somebody to do those things and spend my time either focusing on making videos for you, spending time with my family, things that are far more important to me than whether I can figure out how to get the water heater going when it goes out. This is important because if it's something you don't want to do, and you have the funds to do it, of course, that time can be devoted to the things that you do like to do. Point number 6 to a happy retirement is be completely in alignment with your spouse on two very important issues: money and location. You need to be completely aligned with your spouse on these points, money in particular, because if you're not, you'll have massive discourse in your home during what should be the victory period of your life. Location is equally important. If you want to live in Florida and your spouse wants to live in Chicago, you've got a problem. In these situations, one person eventually gives in, but it does create strife in the relationship in many cases. The most important thing to happiness in the future is being around the person that you're with happy, not constantly in disagreement. Point number 7 is that happy retirees try to fix broken relationships. As a child, I only knew of one estranged family relationship, and that was odd to me given that everybody else around me seemed to be perfectly happy. What I found out later is that that wasn't really the case, and that the people that were pretending to be happy, many of them were actually not happy with each other at all. Over time, those relationships frayed and the individuals stopped talking. And it seemed as if the older I got, the more this happened. I think that's just the way that life is. But if you're going to fix your broken relationships, now is the time. If you tried and it's not working, it's better than not trying. Something as simple as sending out a birthday card can get the ball rolling. It doesn't have to be a deep discussion about your differences. In fact, in many cases, just having the discussion is good enough, and you don't ever have to have a discussion about your differences. That is an entirely personal decision between you and them. The next point is that if you want to work, do it your way. My wife and I were golfing the other day, and we were a twosome. We were paired with another twosome to make a foursome. That's how golf goes. And it was a wonderful couple, frankly. And I started talking with the gentleman I was partnered with. And he was telling me about his life in Florida. He had moved down to Florida just before the pandemic. And so he had a lot of time down in Florida, more than he anticipated, in fact. As it turned out, he and I lived in the same town. We were in the same industry. I knew of him, he knew of me, but we had never talked to each other. I asked him if he was still working. He said yes, but he was going to quit. I said, why is that? His comment was that his job was too corporate and that he didn't want to work for a corporation unless he needed to. And frankly, he didn't need the funds. He was doing it because he wanted to work, not because he had to work. I'll move on to something similar. He said, I need to do something just to fill the time. Maybe I'll help individuals with their money management, but I don't want to do that much that takes away from my retirement. But at the same time, I don't want to be bored in retirement. I want to have variety. This story illustrates the one inalienable point about retirement, and that is you are in retirement. So if you're going to work, you can do it on your terms. The next point is in retirement, you should have many, many interests. You should have a lot of things that you enjoy doing, some of which you are passionate about, but they don't all have to be a level 10 in terms of passion. My wife came to me about a year ago, and she said she wanted to learn a card game called Canasta. Now, I had never heard of Canasta. I had never known anyone who played Canasta, and frankly, it sounded like something that people don't ever do. But as it turns out, I was dead wrong on this point, and Canasta is a very popular card game, particularly amongst those approaching or in retirement. My wife didn't do it as a retirement activity. She did it because she was looking for something to do. But at the same time, it dawned on me that this was something that she was really passionate about and something that she was new at. Canasta is just one point. Maybe you want to become a master of the outdoor grill so that when your family comes over on the weekends, you can grill up food that keeps them coming back. Maybe you're a gardener and you want the perfect lawn. You can't stand to have even one blade of grass out of place. Maybe you like auto shows and you want to see the next Aston Martin or the next Ferrari that is coming out in the following year. So you attend a lot of auto shows, relatively inexpensive. Or maybe you like to golf. Maybe you want to learn to golf. Now's the time to do it. The point is that you can have a very active and full retirement and do things that don't cost a lot of money. Even golf, if you play at a municipal course, can be quite satisfying and relatively inexpensive. The next point is to stay close to your children, but not too close. Let me explain. I've only met one family in my entire life, and I've known a lot of families, where one of the parents said to me as their child was leaving the nest, "Man, I am glad that's over." Almost always it's the opposite. But as your children leave and become adults and lead their adult lives, they have a different relationship that develops with you. One that is more mature, one where you're more of an advisor rather than a director of their lives, and one where you can really enjoy being with them because that time with them is over a certain period of time, not all the time. They've grown, they pay for their own lives, they've figured things out, and you've been with them every step of the way to help them figure it out. Now is the time to enjoy the best of both of you being an adult. It's time to guide, not control. Don't get me wrong, there are times when an adult parent needs to strongly control or at least strongly influence an adult child, but these are the exceptions, not the rules. Assuming that this is not you, know that you still need each other. They need you and you need them in each other's lives, and you need to structure your life accordingly. The next point is to discover who you really are. What is your new identity as a retiree? Up until my late teens, I was a karate instructor out in Northern California. That was who I was as a person. I helped those that couldn't protect themselves learn how to protect themselves. I've always had a lot of that in me, but I didn't realize how much of it until April of 2022, so about 3 or 4 months ago. After over 30 years away from the school, I was on a trip up in Napa, California with my daughter. It was a father-daughter trip. We do that every once in a while. I decided to show her my old school. It was still there, which is a tribute not only to the quality of the instruction, but the quality of the management of the school. My daughter asked to go. I was more than happy to take her. I made a phone call to the head instructor at the West Point Karate School where I studied, and he was more than happy to have me see the school after 30 plus years. At the time, I thought going to the school was just going to be me showing my daughter a piece of my past, but it reminded me of why I am the way that I am in so many ways. The fact is, time and circumstances can change how you react to the world. That's life. But as you enter retirement, you have the opportunity to get back to who you once were, or at least who you feel like you should be today. If you have something that makes you happy that's relatively inexpensive or free, even better, please put it in the comment section below so that others can learn from your wisdom. Also, check out my video on 6 big purchases that almost all retirees regret. This is Jeff Schmidt. Thanks for watching.